To our board meeting. We'll start by all rising and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, will you call the roll?
Yes, Trustee Messick.
Here.
Trustee Sheehan.
Here.
Trustee Kucera.
Here.
Trustee Lautner.
Here.
Trustee Zora is absent. Trustee Seidel is absent. And President DeCipio.
Here.
A quorum is present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. First on the agenda is the swearing in of Timothy Griffin to the office of Sergeant of Police, and also the swearing in of probationary police officer Antonio Garcia. Sergeant Tim Griffin was hired on September 11th, 2012, and was assigned to the Patrol Division until May 2015. In May 2015, Sergeant Griffin was assigned to the Investigations Division. In July of 2017, Sergeant Griffin was selected to be an officer in charge. He served as a detective officer in charge until April 2019, when he was assigned to the afternoon shift to serve as an OIC. On October 7, 2019, Sergeant and is currently assigned to day shift. Sergeant Griffin is married to his wife of 5 years, Kristen, and they are expecting their first child on December 20th, 2019. Sergeant Griffin is recently graduated from Grange University with a master's degree in public safety administration. Officer Antonio Garcia was hired on May 6, 2019, and attended Football Sheriff's Police Academy in Trenton College. He graduated on August 23, 2019, and started the department's field training program on August 26. He was born and raised in Chicago. He has lived in LaGrange Park since 2017. Officer Garcia served in the Marine Corps from June 2003 to June 2007. Officer Garcia graduated from the University of Illinois, Chicago in 2010. Officer Garcia is not expecting any children, but he has 2 German Shepherds, one named Rhodey and the other one named Pepper. Officer Garcia will be assigned to the afternoon shift. It is a privilege on behalf of myself and the board to ask Chief to do the swearing in. Okay, you can go down there now.
I'm going to say something very briefly about these two fine gentlemen, and then we'll have Megan Cooey do the swearing in of them. So as the Chief of Police, I have adopted the philosophy that we are family and that the future of our family is bright. By the showing of support from fellow officers here with us tonight, it's apparent that we all agree with this philosophy. Along with the family atmosphere in our department, it is important to have support at home. By the overwhelming show of support that Officer Garcia has here tonight from his family, I know that he quickly fit into ours. That is, if his family will allow us to share him. Officer Garcia is completing his field training this week and will begin solo patrol next week on the afternoon shift. Officer Garcia, badge 307, congratulations and welcome officially to the LaGrange Park family. Sergeant Griffin, I couldn't be prouder of you and what you've accomplished in your 7 years here on the village. The multitude of tasks that you have taken on has only shown your dedication to the department, and for that I thank you. Moving up from patrol after only a few years to investigations and now to a day shift sergeant not only shows your dedication to the agency, but to the lifetime goals that you have implemented. As a recent graduate of Lewis University's master's program in public safety administration, I look forward to seeing the leadership and ideas that you bring forward to this department. Sergeant Griffin, badge 220, congratulations on your promotion, and congrats to you and your wife on becoming first-time parents next month to little Grayson. With that, Kristen and Guadalupe, if you'd like to come forward. You guys want to come over here? Camera.
Kim, we'll start with you. Just repeat after me. I, Tim Griffin,
I, Tim Griffin,
hereby do solemnly swear
hereby do solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend
that I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
And I will faithfully carry out all the duties imposed
that I will faithfully carry out all the duties imposed
upon and entrusted in me
upon it
as a sergeant of police of the Village of Grange Park,
as a
County, Illinois. Ready? Just repeat after me. I, Antonio Garcia,
I, Antonio Garcia,
hereby solemnly swear
hereby solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend
I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America
the Constitution
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
Constitution
I will faithfully carry out all the duties imposed upon and entrusted in me,
and
entrusted in me,
entrusted in me
officer
as a
of the Village of Grange Park, County, Illinois.
Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you, Officer.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Good luck. Congratulations. Okay.
Okay, next up, we have the swearing in of paid on-call firefighter Pat Rochelle. Pat Rochelle became a paid on-call firefighter candidate with our fire department on July 9th, 2018. He lives with his wife and family on Dover. Patrick obtained his EMT basic license and graduated from the Fire Academy in Western Springs in June of this year, becoming a state-certified firefighter. Over the past year, Patrick has also been learning about LaGrange Park Fire Department policies, standard operating guidelines, and general operations. Most recently, this past month, he successfully completed his probationary testing, which includes general knowledge of policies, apparatus and equipment, and practical driving and pumping test. Therefore, we recommend swearing in of Patrick Rochelle as a paid-on-call firefighter for the LaGrange Park Fire Department. Chief, will you do the honors, please?
Thank you. Patrick, if you could come on up with your family, entire family. We'll see how they hold up. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Just cut me off. Hi. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Patrick and his family on getting to this point in our service to our community. For most of you who have been here before for these, our fire department is very unique in that we still operate a predominantly paid-on-call fire department. So Patrick, along with most of our other personnel, have other jobs, are either going to school or have many other commitments. As you can see, Patrick has a full-time job, runs your own company, and also has 3 children. So in addition to that, on a daily basis over the last year and a half, Patrick had to attend EMT school and go through the fire academy on a part-time basis 3 days a week. I think it was 2 nights and a weekend at the Western Springs Fire Department. Patrick, throughout his training, has excelled. He did very well in the academy. There's some people from the academy here tonight that helped teach him or went with him. And he did great getting through that. Now, again, that is all on top of trying to maintain his family and his business. So we congratulate him on just that achievement. So again, why we're here tonight is we're swearing him in. He has completed all the preliminary requirements, but again, his work has just begun. Because we are a predominantly part-time fire department, we still need him to come back on a regular basis, participate in training every week, and make several calls in addition to many other activities we do. So as always, I'd like to congratulate our entire department and those who get to this point, because it takes an extreme amount of dedication. We are their we are the fire department, whether they're the full-timers or the part-timers, and they have to be here in addition to everything else they do in their life. So this is a big achievement getting through the initial training, but there's much more, as you know, to stay on top of, but I'm sure you will do that fine. We do welcome his family, as the police department said and Chief Contoy said. Being in public service does sometimes take a family, and we like everyone to become part of our families, and hopefully they are. No, and they are. So we congratulate Patrick, and we'll do the swearing in.
I, Patrick Rochelle,
I, Patrick Rochelle,
hereby solemnly swear
hereby solemnly swear
that I will uphold and defend
that I will uphold and defend
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution
Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution,
and I will faithfully carry out
and I will faithfully
the duties imposed upon and entrusted in me Park
as a firefighter for the
All right, don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to give it a whirl. I'm going to ask his wife to pin his badge on, and we'll see how this goes. I'm sure they'll be great, right, guys? I'm sure you do.
Tell the kids there's cake in the corner.
Right. That's a lot of work.
I need that kid's energy.
Right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Patrick.
I feel like we should donate the cake that's over there to the office. I probably want to sit outside the hallway and visit. Be all the cake out there. His kids win the cute kid award for the night.
You stay for the meeting. Okay, so moving on, I think it's evident that by the support that our police and fire department give their candidates, it's very impressive, and we're very grateful. Next is recognition of the Village of LaGrange Park as ranking #1 nationally as an EPA Green Power community by Sharon Durling, NIMC, and MC Squared President Chuck Sutton. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. I'm Sharon Durling, and it's been our great pleasure to work with Village Manager Julia Cedillo, Village President DeCipio, and the rest of the board since 2011. Time flies, which is when you first concluded to set the referendum for residents to be able to establish electric aggregation program. The first 2 years were of great success. The average participating resident saved $319 with no change to their electric bills, and that was a cumulative savings for the community of $1.25 million. So that was a great effort, we thought, that the village did. I'm going to turn it over to Chuck in a minute, but I'm going to take some of the limelight because I want to say that a federal agency, and that is the Environmental Protection Agency, has a ranking on their website of the communities in the United States in terms of green power versus total power consumed. I'm seriously getting chills because LaGrange Park is #1 in the United States of America. Just I'll just say, we have another community, I was telling them they were #2, and the mayor's like, who's #1? We're after them. So I said, well, it's LaGrange Park, Illinois. So it's amazing, but I think it's roughly 85%. I've stolen some of Chuck's thunder, but Chuck Sutton is the president of MC² Energy Services, a Chicago-based energy supplier that has sort of put together this program to make it work and to put your community #1 in the country, which I think is crazy and amazing. So good on you. Chuck, I took the best part of the story.
You're fine. So thank you again. I'm Chuck Sutton with MC². We're your retail electric supplier for this green aggregation program. We started this last year, and as Sharon said, aggregation is not new to Illinois. It started about 7 years ago in 2012. And we're serving approximately 3 dozen communities under this green aggregation program. But what happened is many communities couldn't see a savings relative to the ComEd rate. So we created this program where we match the ComEd rate, so there is no risk of paying more. That was one of the dangers of doing an aggregation program. But we make the community green by buying wind renewable certificates throughout the Midwest. So from states like Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, some in the Dakotas. But through the Midwest, we buy these renewable energy certificates which offset the energy that is consumed by the residents of the village. And so the EPA has this program called the Green Power Community Program, and they recognize cities and communities and corporations that are dedicated to supporting sustainability. And I'm pleased to present the Village of LaGrange Park, Illinois, with the Certificate of Community Participation Partnership with the EPA's Green Power Partnership. And we also have some little mementos. I see a shelf over there that can hold a few more, so that's good. And so we just wanted to bring these by and say thank you for supporting green power. Thank you for being a green power community. And it does make a difference. I did a recent presentation in Springfield for the Institute of Regulatory Policy Studies put on by Illinois State University. And they did a paper and a research that in the last 20 years, we've displaced, coal was roughly, I have the exact number, coal was 58% of the generation mix in Illinois in 1997, and by 2017, 20 years later, it was 31%. So in 20 years, we've reduced the coal consumption in the state of Illinois by 27%. What made up the difference was more nuclear output from the existing plants, new natural gas plants, and new wind and solar plants, which is 7% of the state and growing very rapidly. So that's a trend that's happening across the country, and I wouldn't be surprised in the next 5 to 10 years if it goes from 31% down to probably 10 or 15%. So we're rapidly changing the generation mix in the country and in the state of Illinois, and you're helping to support that. So thank you.
Chuck and Sharon, on behalf of the board and the staff, we want to thank you for being here tonight, but most importantly for bringing this forward to us. And we know the amount of work that it takes that Julie and Emily put into this, along with you, Sharon, and our staff. Sustainability is a huge thing in our community. We have a great sustainability commission that takes it very seriously. So to show them that we are now ranked #1 in a certain arena is a privilege and an honor for our community. So thank you for being here and presenting us with this plaque.
You're welcome. And There's also a little information sheet that we put together. It shows how much carbon offsets that equates to, so. Absolutely.
You see two trees sitting. Excellent idea.
Thank you, appreciate it. You got it.
Oh, thank you, President DeCipio. And you're leaving California in the dust, I'm going to say. You know, this Silicon Valley, Menlo Park, Palos, Los Gatos, a lot of those communities are behind LaGrange Park. I'm sorry.
And make sure they all know that, Sharon, okay?
Or we will.
But thank you so much for the honor.
Mr. President,
Yes, Trustee Lautner?
just as a point, perhaps we could look into some sort of a village sign, street sign.
We have two.
Awesome. Okay, very good. Good idea.
Chuck, thank you.
Okay,
Sharon,
thought
thank
they
you.
might.
Same to you.
Pass that down.
Boy, what a testament to the hard work of our community, our staff, and everyone that's been involved in this. Another honor for us. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, trustees. Those are, there's a couple of board decisions that went into this achievement. One is the 100% renewable energy certificates for our water pumping station. That's a part of this, as well as the municipal aggregation. So a big achievement. We're proud of it. It's up on our website. So it's good to have them this evening.
Okay, moving on. Presentation of the Cook County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan by Gene Ryan, Director of Planning, Cook County Emergency Management and Regional Security.
I'm going
Gene?
to
I'm sorry,
start
Gene.
it off, that's okay, and then Gene's going to come up and
Short one. Thanks.
All right, me and Gene talked a little bit. I'm going to get us started, kind of give you a little bit of a background, how we got to where we're at. Gene's going to talk about how we got to where we were at last board meeting, I think when we adopted the plan, and we will go from there, so.
Oh, they sound sleepy.
Sinister.
All right, as you remember, or most of you remember, back in the, about 2011, 2012, possibly, actually a little bit before that, the village of LaGrange Park was afforded a federal grant to install our new generator. One of the criteria is it was getting close to as we were getting close to getting the grant, sorry. As we were getting close to getting the grant, was that we needed our own, plan or hazard mitigation plan. We had gone back and forth with Cook County. They were working on a plan. Their plan took another direction. They weren't sure the first go around was going to work out. The village at that point had to make a decision, go on our own, wait for the county to complete theirs. We got assurances from the county through their contractors and the county that they would get the plan completed, which they did. So in 2014 was the first multi-jurisdictional mitigation plan that Cook County had adopted. And again, at the time, I think at the time it was also the largest one in the country as it is today. So what happened then, because Cook County got their grant approved and it went through FEMA, we were able to get onto that, and we had a portion of that plan, which I'll get into later, of our annex, so that we were part of the Cook County plan. and we were able to obtain our funding. And again, that's how we got, I believe it was $150,000 for our emergency generator for the village hall. Since that time, it's required that the plan is updated. So how did we get here today? Earlier this year, and I handed it out to everybody, was kind of a little list of objectives that the Cook County presented us with and their timelines. There was a webinar that many of us attended from staff regarding the plan, what we needed to do. That was in, I believe, May 21st. In the end of May, Julia, and I know some other people attended with her, went to the workshops that Cook County had put on to kind of get us going on how to get the plan going again and to get the updated plan and what we needed to do. Over that time, we technically had to build a local planning team, and we had to update some of the areas in our plan, our annex of the big Cook County plan, and get that back to the county for consideration. Some of the things in that plan are projects, are concerns we have within the community regarding disasters that we want to address beforehand and also consider what happens after a disaster. So real quick, this was from the webinar that we first attended. And this kind of just tells you, again, where we're at. I'm going to buzz through a lot of this because our goal tonight is to kind of show where we're at tonight. But back in May, this webinar was put on, and they went through everything. And part of what the village had to do, we had to relook at our original plan, relook at the accomplishments we've had and some of our objectives, and then add objectives or at least update those as to how we can protect the village better, and I'll get into some of that later. So again, those are mitigation actions. What are we doing to mitigate disasters in the village? Again, kind of talks, and Gene will get into this, why we do mitigation, why there's a plan, and we went through the whole reasons why this was important to update the plan, which most of you know. We want to protect the village from disasters and be prepared ahead of time to do things ahead of time that will lessen the issues. A whole list of different things as to how disasters affect not only the world but small communities. Obviously, we've had a number of small ones in Illinois over years, many floods, tornadoes, different things. And a lot of our efforts that are coming out of this plan will hopefully protect the village from that. Throughout the summer, again, there was a planning team. We pretty much talked just, about our objectives and our mitigation plans. A couple people focused on what those changes were from staff. And then we did put out information to the public, which they required, to get some input. And I think that was a survey, right? That it was developed by Cook County, but we kept pushing it out to try and get more and more people to participate. Again, there was a local planning team. Really, it was staff with some other, department heads with some other staff personnel and some other people that, we talked along the way with. It's a shared effort with Cook County's consultants to get the plan done. Again, they don't do it all in-house. It's a big undertaking. And there's a lot of things we actually do in the plan. We go back and we assess our risk. We actually go back in history of how close a tornado can come, what the paths are, what the typical paths are. Whole lot of things in mapping and number of floods as we start to develop stuff or change, in this case, update it. And then again, we kind of take it, what could happen and what could we do to prevent it. Goes through a whole thing. And again, these are some of the different hazards that are listed. Again, some of these are in the Cook County plan. Some, as you know, there's some other communities that get a lot worse flooding than us. So each of the annexes have different objectives under the Cook County plan. Again, you prioritize those. You decide what's the likelihood. If it's an increased likelihood on top of increased damage potential, then those come higher priorities. And then again, they directed us through Cook County and their contractor, how to set goals and what those goals of the plan are. Again, I'm just going to finish this one off. Again, they gave a project schedule, a lot of things, timelines to meet, most of them by the county, but we were involved in some of those that we had to get back to them. And I believe now the plan did get approved by FEMA, right? Just recently. So. Oh, was it September 26th? Okay. So once all that work's done, it goes to FEMA. And again, there were workshops and all sorts of things, what we had to do. And then there was actually a whole way to be involved in the planning system online. So again, that's how we got here. That's kind of the intro. I'm going to let Gene take over in a second here, but just so you know, the Cook County plan is about 529 pages because it covers everything possible throughout the county, all sorts of research, all sorts of background, and then our annex is about 47 pages. So all the communities that have participated in the Cook County plan have annexes. So they all have their own set of objectives and mitigation efforts and things outlined in their plan. So I'll turn it over to Gene for a little bit.
Following off what the chief just did, which is a nice presentation, I'm going to be able to highlight a few things that go along. First thing is I think it's a great theme I get invited for tonight because it's all about family between the law enforcement, fire service representatives, and your community. And once again, it's really what this is all about. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit if that's okay. Basically, we're here to talk about planning partner adoption. I'm not sure how to advance this.
This should work. Just forward, back.
Okay. So again, we're here to kind of give an update sort of where you're at, what's going on. What is mitigation? How mitigation pays off? Talk a little bit about the history of it, which the chief has touched on it for us. Talk about some of the success stories. Talk about currently where we are with the 2019 plan and what needs to be done. First thing that needs to be done is for me to say, which I appreciate this opportunity personally, live, face to face, outstanding, nice job, man. You're one of the first municipalities that charged forward and got this done for your community. Back to the point about family. This is designed to make us more resilient against natural disasters, but eventually who protects what? Our families. Yeah, we're all responsible to take care of the community. That's why we took these positions, why we choose to be in the service, correct? But really, it's about protecting our families. And that's what's really behind us. That's why we want to do mitigation. So we're touching these shows that go along. And again, this is normally done, and I'm brought in a lot of times to present to representatives like yourselves to talk about why should you do a resolution? Why should you adopt a plan at this point in time? So please bear with me if some of this is a little bit outdated, but we felt this would be a nice way to kind of go across. We talked about mitigation. The key to it is take on natural disasters, become more resilient against it, and protect our families. The key thing about being part of the plan, you have an opportunity to go for all kinds of grant funding that's out there. You heard about some of the examples today, the green projects. Right now, there's the PDM, which is Post-Disaster Mitigation Grant Fund, with about $258 million. There's the Flood Mitigation Act grant, which is worth $158 million. The President of the United States has approved the governor's request to have a state declaration. So that has now been released. What that means, at some point in time, they'll announce just how money is available. For us that are participating in the plan, could be eligible potentially to get some of that money. How much that one is right now, I don't know. But in order for the state to get it, it had to cost them more than $18 to $19 million worth of damage to justify it. So 15% of that is made available for any one of the 102 counties, whether they flood or not, to be able to go forward with these mitigation plans. That's the good news, that you're already involved in it because you've already adopted the plan. So good for you. Nice job. But moving forward again, to be eligible, you got to be part of a plan. First question he asked, does your county have a plan? The answer is yes. It was adopted September 26th. The next question is, have you done a resolution and adopted that plan? And your answer is yes. So you're already moving forward. Any point in time you say no, you're completely out. Now these are 75, 25% matching funds and they're very competitive. That money I mentioned, you're competing with every other county in the United States that's taking place. But to show you how we have the leverage, and the fact we're multi-jurisdictional, that's why that name is so long, there's 135 municipalities in this county. This county has 40% of the state of Illinois living in it. This county has more population in it than 26 of the states within the United States. At 5.128 million or 5.2 million, whatever statistic you look at, justifies why we move forward. And the more IEMA and FEMA see us coming together as multi-jurisdictional, working together as a team, the more eligible we could be potentially getting our hands on money, competing with everybody else in the county. LA County's got like maybe 65 municipalities. Right now, we have 75 at this point in time. I'm going to get to 121 before we're done. Why aren't the others involved? Because they're in multiple counties at one time. Like Lamont is in 4 counties at one time. Last year, they had updated the plan. Every 5 years, you have to update the plan. Well, we're at that point. So Lamont went into that plan, but as an example. But we still work with the border counties all the time, so it's like you're never out. But just in the plan, there's 121 right now participating as we go forward. This statistic going back to the 2014 plan was never done before. I had a prior career, and I retired, was picked up by county. I was involved in the 2013 floods where I was standing water up to my chest and so on and so forth. 85 and 135 were underwater in 2013. We alone, Cook County, had $18 million worth of damage. That's how I led that declaration. But unfortunately, Cook County could do nothing because the first question I got asked is, do you have a plan? Our answer was at that point in time, no. So they're all out. That's why I just got forward, moving to president. Everybody else said, make this thing happen in 2014. That's the history. Another thing I want to make a point of, in 2014 when I started this, the National Institute of Building Science says for every dollar spent in mitigation, you're saving your community 4. What's it saying now? 6. Because these last 5 years, they've proven by doing this, it's now up to you're saving $6 already with this process. So again, it's good that you step forward and you're in the plan, so you'll have a shot at getting the money. Again, 2014, I kind of touched on it a little bit. It was 117 at the point in time. It was required every 5 years that we update it. We recently just did that with everybody's help. Again, you've had a couple of representatives in the room today that are your points of contact. They've been working their tails off for more than a year with us, trying to get through this process, which is a huge, heavy lift. So congratulations to them. Moving forward, there's 121 now to participate in this. Currently, right now, with the 70 plus we have, we're already the largest plan in the country. But we're going to be well over that. We'll be at 121 before we're done. It's going to be fairly soon. Figured we got picked on, identified on September 26th, so what, in less than a month? There's 70 plus already involved. There's others already asking me to come up in December to talk to them because they want to do our resolutions as well. So it's going to happen quickly, which is good for us. The more we talk to our neighbors above, lowest, east, and west, and south, the more we work with them, the more jurisdiction we are, the more positive they look at it. Because again, FEMA knows that money's getting smaller and smaller opportunities. So what they're trying to do is get the most bang for the buck to help communities that they can. So as an example, I'm just picking on them. LA comes in and says, okay, we got 2 municipalities coming in, good for you. Well, Cook County's coming in with a heck of a lot more. So the bigger your dog you are in the arena, the better off you're going to have in getting the most bang for the buck, getting the opportunity to win these goals potentially. I'll talk about a few success stories in a moment. So again, I heard a little bit about Grange being mentioned, so one on the bottom. And again, Cook County, because of its size, we look at it for emergency management. We have the north, you are in the central, and then there's the south regions. That's how we break up the county. There's about 35 to 50 municipalities in each one of those with a regional coordinator and so on and so forth. So I'm going to look at the central one for tonight. A green project that was done that actually should be, there was 10,600 square yards of permeable pavement that was put in place. So what that means now, when they get hit with that heavy rate of rain, where it's 2 inches an hour, and no system can really handle that well, they're taking on 250,000 gallons of storm water just because the pavers that are now in their alleys are permeable and absorb it right into the ground. Rather than just staying flat and trying to take, instead of having riverine flooding, we're having urban flooding because it's got nowhere to go. That's one way you can use these projects. Another one I like more than anything, especially being the fact that we're multi-jurisdictional, which we started that in 2014, and now it's a huge thing taken on all over the country. Again, here in Central, 6 municipalities got together, combining their corporate budgets, taking on that 25 matching situation. It's either working kind or funding, so that, again, FEMA will give you the 75. But at the same time, I want you to be aware of, water reclamation also is in the hazard mitigation plan. They're one of our planning partners. There's 5 county agencies that are on a steering committee that work with this. So you had 6 municipalities, water reclamation brought in funding of their own, and in Cook County Economic Development, which is another county agency, brought in another grant fund that we were able to match, which is very rarely done, but with hazard mitigation you can, where federal money was being shared to do federal money projects. So that's some stuff I want you to be aware of because you're in the plan, you have exposure to it. Bi-weekly, we meet on a regular basis with water reclamation, economic development, emergency management, I keep on saying Homeland Security, I'm sorry, emergency management, and environmental and so on and so forth. And we talk about all the projects and programs going on. So if we get notified by municipality trying to do a project, we let water reclamation know. They look to see can they tie it into their plan. And they try to bring funding in to help you move that along if they can. Vice versa, if they have projects, they reach out to us and say, listen, we've got 4 or 5 of them going here. Any municipalities we can tie into their programs, the action items that the chief referred to. We try to do that on a bi-weekly basis as well for those that are in part of the plan. That project has now made it where 195 million gallons of reservoir storage is now available for them, and 2,200 structures are not going to flood in a couple of years because they're building this as we speak right now. They started earlier this summer. And again, that only happened for Water Rec and everybody else because Water Rec also is in the plan. I'm going to talk a little bit about where we've been, what we've been doing. Again, the chief is going to follow me shortly. He's going to tell you a little bit about your annex, so I'm not going to get too far into that. Basically, want to continue working forward as we're moving forward as we have been. Again, you updated your jurisdictional profile, your demographics. You saw just what your real hazards are, what your challenges are, where your vulnerable populations are. You'll be able to pass it on to your communities by doing the public surveys and the rest of it. Your community's better educated, more aware of now what the hazards are really out there we got to be thinking about. Again, if we go back to when we were all younger, we had a thunderstorm once in a while. Now we're having the thunder snow. Every time we turn around, it's almost like we're raining. What was it like coming in here tonight? What was it like 2 weeks ago? It was below zero, with 4 inches, 5 inches of snow by my house. Again, these are things we want to be thinking about because times are changing. Again, examples of mitigation actions, the chief's going to touch on those. One of them that he already mentioned is, again, the availability to look at your critical infrastructure facilities and be able to come in with energy systems to help you support that. That's another huge theme that FEMA's looking at, is how to make critical infrastructure facilities better supported, such as with electrical power and other things. There's many others that are out there you can do, and again, I think you guys got roughly 40-something, I think it is, Chief, or whatever, in your plan. As far as the current plan, us working together, there's also the countywide mitigation actions that you adopted, as well as Volume 1, your own annex. We now have 367 new mitigation items on top of the 1,600 we made in 2014. So again, we're moving very forward as a team and a unity as we take place. And again, we're going to have up to 121 jurisdictions by the time that we're done. So what do we need to do now? Well, you've already done a lot of it. September 26th, the board adopted it. That afternoon, IEMA and FEMA signed off and approved it, which made us available now to be eligible to go for the grant fundings the minute they're announced. 2 weeks later, the first two came out being the PDM and the FMA. Now, for those that are in the plan are available, and you have until March to get your recommendations in, potentially to go for this new federal declaration funding that's coming down the line fairly soon. And you've already done the base plan, which is Volume 1 the chief held up. And there's another 700 plus pages in Volume 2, which is all different annexes. By the way, if you go to cookcountyemergencymanagement.org, you can see your entire plan. It's all online. You can see Volume 1. You can see all the annexes that are on there if you're interested in seeing these. So, again, we'll keep moving forward after we accomplish the 20 plan opportunities. You'll have opportunities more to pursue the different funding opportunities. What needs to be done, a lot of this you've already done. The fact that you've already done a resolution adopted. Again, thank you for being so proactive for your community. More importantly, what's happening is what we're doing tonight. We're going to continue to build this partnership that we've already started in 2014 and keep it ongoing. My goal is not for this to be a plan anymore. I want it to be a program. I'm hoping the chief or others will step up to the plate and become part of a central committee. There'll be a south committee and a north committee representing all the mitigation ideas between them, answering back to the steering committee, which is behind this plan. That's one of the things we want to do, is make it a program. And IEMA and FEMA is behind us 100%. We've been talking to them. They're already trying to find different means and ways to get us other kind of capabilities and other people in to help us and subject matter experts to build a program, because no one's done that in the country. But we're going to go for it as best we can with your help as much as we can. Again, we couldn't have got where we are today if you folks had not been behind us going back to 2014 and moving on forward. The fact that your team worked so hard in doing those yearly updates that they're going to be required to do, when the vendors, everybody came in, they said this is going to go seamlessly well because we had so much information already done. Just to show you where the county's at and we are as a team, more than 50% of the state of Illinois, other counties at 102, they do not have an HMP. They're already behind the wheel. We're already ahead of them. So again, we're going to tune that partnership, continue to do the programs. And again, the good news is you're in the plan, you've already adopted it. You'll have these opportunities. I know I talked rather quick, but I'm trying to be respectful for your time. Thank you very much for your time and patience. Appreciate it, and congratulations again. Thank you. I'll turn over to the chief, who will finish up.
Gene, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Gene. You know, Gene pretty much covered a lot. What I'm going to do, though, real quick, if you have not looked at it, is just take a look at our annex just to see what it looks like. And I'm not going to go through all the details. But in that book, at the end of the county plan, is our annex. So as you go through it, table of contents, this is just for LaGrange Park. Our points of contact, a lot about our municipality, our capabilities, where we're at right now in response to disasters, specific natural hazard events. We rank our hazards, their strategies, new mitigation actions compared to our last update, ongoing ones, and then completed ones. Then again, there's a whole bunch of stuff about understanding your risk versus your vulnerability and some other stuff. So I'll just show you what they look like. I'm not going to go through them all. But again, this was first developed in 2014. There's information about our village, trends as far as development, redevelopment, capabilities. We kind of went through our different codes, what we adopted. This will have to be updated hopefully soon in the next month or two when we adopt our new codes. It did talk, there's some things about floodplains or our stormwater management codes, which we updated earlier this decade, probably about 5 years ago, I think. I don't remember how far back it was. We take a look at, again, our ability to get other grants, fiscal capabilities, technical capabilities, that we have engineers on staff as far as contract, who does what. Just a lot of information about the community to prep for disaster planning. Go through some other questions. Natural hazard events, we had to list a few of them. If you see one of the first ones up there was storms. Damage assessments, we do that. The county requests us to send what's called flash reports when we do have a disaster, heavy rainfall, or a snow event that takes days to clean up. And we actually have to develop what it costs us to do that. And if it reaches a certain threshold, that's when disaster declarations get called. So we track all that for certain events. We do talk about different things, how tornadoes could affect us, cold. We take a look. What we do then is we start to rank what are the chances of what happens. We put that in a risk rating formula. What is the probability versus what's the impact? How much damage would there be? And it just kind of goes through all that. And then we get in our mitigation strategies and actions, which again, we've updated pretty much annually, and we had to do again this year with the 5-year update of the county plan. So just so you see what it looks like, again, install emergency generator. That was back when we first did this. It was completed. Implement downspout disconnection program. This was from a while ago. It was ongoing. Again, the program, the IEPA program's over, but we're done. Maintain code red, ongoing. All those things, adopt new building codes, because newer building codes hopefully will help you with disasters better, and all sorts of different things. And so we make these actionable items, and we actually have to rank them. We have to look at cost, how long it's going to take. Is it short-term, long-term? Is it completed? We completed our tabletop exercise last year downstairs with our EOC opening. So we added that to completed, so we were lucky we can update that. And again, it just goes through these different things that we've come up with, but in a formal process. So that is all part of our plan, and annually we look at those. We kind of, in a very generic way, look at our action numbers. These go back to what we wrote. How many objectives in each one were there? How many have been met? Do we think the benefits equal or exceed the cost? And we rate all those things. And then, sometimes we'll come out with something lower, so it goes lower on the list. It's not that important. We don't have the money, we can't do it. And again, I think we're getting close to it. Again, everything's listed with the goals, objectives. And this is, I think, the newest objective that we just wrote, right, was the interoperability, I think. Oh, this is the evacuation. A resource guide for evacuation for residents. We want to get that out to people. And then I think we had some other things listed. Increased radio operability through STARCOM, which we are currently working on. Should be, hopefully we will have that up and running in the next 2 to 3 months. So that was one of our objectives that they came up with earlier this year. And I think those were our 2 new objectives for this upcoming year. So again, that's just what the plan looks like to kind of tie it all together. Again, it is something that has to be worked on annually or a little more often, but definitely annually. And again, years ago, you wondered a lot of things on how things worked in the county, but obviously the county and their emergency management agency, they just changed their name again, have just really stood up, and they have a lot of resources, and the contact between the staff and their contractors and the plan, it's an amazing thing that maybe you don't regularly think of, that it works that well, and it does. There's a lot of resources and a lot of good back and forth to do these things together. So that is it for the presentation, but obviously we want to thank Gene, and are there any questions?
Any questions, we have to answer.
Any questions? Julia? Yes.
Reminder about the new name?
Oh,
Reminder about
it's,
the new name?
it's Cook County Emergency Management Regional Security.
Gene, I want to thank you for coming out tonight, and I know it was important to the board to hear this. And Chief, thank you and everyone involved for putting our part of it together and for being one of the first ones to vote it in. I'm shocked at the enormity of it and the precision of it, that everything that you can think of is in there. And it's nice to know that the county is looking after us and we're working well hand in hand. Any comments? Trustee
Thank you,
Lautner?
Mr. President. As heading up the Public Safety Committee, I'd like to just echo your comments and express gratitude for all of the hard work of our first responders, our entire staff, actually. But, that includes the fire department, the police department, the public works are all involved in that, and keeping us safe, our families safe, which I know this is all about. And once again, helping LaGrange Park be one of the leaders in this area.
And the preparedness of it all, it's just amazing. You don't really see the scope of this until you're hit by something. Hopefully we will not. But then it really kicks in, and you realize how grateful you are for all the work that was done on the forefront.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Chief. Okay, moving on. Public participation of agenda-related items only. Would anyone care to address the board on agenda-related items? Moving on to the consent agenda. Megan?
Thank you, Mr. President. The items on this evening's consent agenda are as follows. A, approval of minutes. 1, Village Board meeting, October 22nd, 2019. 2, Village Work Session, November 12th, 2019. 3, Executive Session meeting, November 12th, 2019. B, action, authorization to destroy executive session recordings. Motion to adopt a resolution authorizing the destruction of certain verbatim records of closed meetings. C, action, resolution for construction on state highways. Motion to approve a resolution for construction on state highways. D, action, 31st and LaGrange Road water main design work, hydro excavation, water services. Motion to authorize the village manager to execute the contract documents with HEI utility contractors in a not-to-exceed amount of $10,928 for hydro excavation of water services. E, action, notice of annual schedule of regular meetings. Motion to approve a resolution approving the annual schedule of regular meeting dates for 2020. F, action, motion to authorize the president and chairperson of the Finance Committee to sign the register for bills and authorize the treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in payment of operating bills and salaries as itemized in the check registers. G, action, motion to authorize the village treasurer and village clerk to sign checks in the payment of payroll and other bills that become due between this date and January 28th, 2020, with subsequent approval of the payroll register and voucher register by the Board of Trustees at its regular meeting to be held on January 28th, 2020.
Thank you, Megan. A motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second. Motion is second. Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Kucera?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Next up is Village Manager's Report. Julia?
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I have just 2 items to report on this evening. The first is that there will be a staff presentation on building code updates at next month's meeting in December. So that is at the December 10th combined work session and village board meeting. Secondly, I'd like to report that staff will be working on marketing information for the upcoming decennial census count. This count is a count of all the folks that are living in the United States and all of our communities, this will take place. Well, it takes place every 10 years, which is why they call it the decennial. But this count will take place around April 1st in 2020. This count is very important for communities all throughout the United States. The village, like many other communities and local units of government, receives a share of state-shared revenues here in Illinois. Last month, at the last meeting when we talked about this count coming up, Finance Director Knoller reported that about 20% of our revenue in our general fund comes by way of state-shared revenue. So this is based upon per capita counts. So the village receives revenue in accordance with in accordance with the population of our community. So it's important that everyone's counted. We'll start getting that information out to residents in December. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Moving on to Administration Committee, in the absence of Trustee Seidel, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joining the tradition of lighting of the official village holiday tree at Memorial Park on Friday, December 6th. The festivities include the lighting of the tree at the west end of Memorial Park at 6 p.m., presentation of the colors by local Boy Scouts, caroling by a local choir, music, hot cocoa, and holiday cheer. Come out and join the fun. The LaGrange Park Chamber of Commerce will host the annual Holiday in the Park event at the Community Park District Recreation Center on Saturday, December 14th from noon until 3 p.m. This family-friendly event will include free pictures with Santa, a petting zoo, cookie decorating, games, raffle prizes, and more. New this year, the Princess from Frozen will be in attendance. This event is free and open to the public. For more information on the event, visit the LaGrange Park Chamber of Commerce website. The village would like to encourage residents to stay connected with what is happening in LaGrange Park by signing up for the community e-briefs, our weekly electronic newsletter that is emailed out each Friday. The village currently has over 2,200 subscribers. Residents may sign up for e-briefs by going to the homepage of the village's website at www.lagrangepark.org. That concludes the administrative report.
Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Building and Zoning Committee, absence of Trustee Zora, Trustee Messick.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Building Department activities for October of 2019. 97 building permits were issued in October compared to 113 issued last year in the same period. 773 permits have been issued year-to-date compared to 930 in October of 2018. Estimated construction costs and permit fees collected for the month were down significantly for the month compared to last year. 173 inspections were conducted this October compared to 164 last October. 9 were not approved. There have been 1,166 inspections year-to-date compared to 1,195 at this point last year. Work continued during the month on the 31st Street Shopping Plaza, including the completion of concrete and drainage along the rear walk, disconnection of the old water service, and the installation of the fire sprinkler system in several tenant spaces. The Rosati's build-out plans were approved, and the village continues to wait for additional information on Enos to issue the permit. Staff finalized assessment of property maintenance issues and issued violation notices to the 2 gas stations at 31st Street and LaGrange Road. Staff received and responded to multiple complaints regarding the long-term rain event that occurred during the month, mostly related to yard flooding. Staff conducted various inspections during October for the Fifth Third Bank relocation to the Village Market. With the early cold spell, staff received several heat complaints. One involved Bethlehem Woods, where a boiler pump failed, but it was resolved rather quickly. And finally, a permit for a new single-family home at 624 North Edgewood has been submitted. The home has been vacant for several years, and village staff worked with the owner to sell the property for development. And that concludes the building department report. Mr. President, there are no action items.
Thank you, Trustee Messick. Engineering Capital Projects Committee, Trustee Casera.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening I have 3 items to report on. First item, the contractor for the 2019 street paving program, J. Narduli Concrete, has completed all major items of work on the project. A punch list is currently being developed and will be provided to the contractor for follow-up action. It is expected that all issues identified will be resolved by the end of this construction season. Second item, work on the Raymond Avenue water main replacement project is also complete. The contractor, Suburban General Construction, is addressing the punch list items and is expected to complete all outstanding work by the end of November. Third and final item, design work for the LaGrange Road 31st Street water main project continues. The environmental consultant hired by the village is waiting for the Illinois Department of Transportation to approve a highway access to permit so soil borings can be obtained. The soil boring information is needed before a final route for the water main can be determined. We anticipate receiving this permit before the end of the calendar year. That concludes my report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Casera. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Lautner.
Thank you, Mr. President. From the public safety area this evening over the last month, first of all, from the police department. To date, the total number of crimes this year are slightly higher than last year, with 268 reported this year compared to 262 last year. Traffic enforcement is at 4,161 total tickets issued through October of 2019. Overall, police activity is slightly lower to last year, with 7,348 total incidents reported through October of 2019, as compared to 7,979 total incidents through October of 2018. Chief Contois, Deputy Chief Strezzo, and Commander Morocco attended the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference that was held in Chicago at the end of October. There were several school lockdown drills performed at various schools throughout the month. Our police department staff, in conjunction with the DEA, participated in the annual Drug Take Back Day on October 26th. We collected over 145 pounds of expired or unused pharmaceutical drugs. Thanks to everyone who dropped off items for proper disposal. And as a reminder, the police department has a drop-off box in the library or in the lobby that's available for residents during normal business hours. And a friendly reminder about securing one's personal property, as always, to secure it at all times. Please lock your vehicles and residence, especially during overnight hours. Keep valuables properly secured and out of sight at all times. In addition, please be aware of any scheduled package deliveries. If feasible, please request an in-person delivery, which requires a signature upon dropping off of said package. And lastly, the men and women of the LaGrange Park Police Department would like to wish each and every one of us in the village a happy Thanksgiving. And from the fire department, activities for October of 2019. EMS incidents this month totaled 108, and there have been 1,244 year-to-date as compared to 1,382 year-to-date in 2018. Fire and rescue incidents this month were at 60, and there have been 494 year-to-date compared to 427 year-to-date in 2018. With the recent Fire Prevention Week occurring in the second week of October, the month was very busy with many activities. Fire safety presentations were conducted at Barnesdale Road, Forest Road, Brook Park, and St. Louis de Marillac schools, and also the Ready Teddy preschool at the Park District. Fire drills were conducted at Nazareth Academy and Forest Road. A safety presentation was provided to residents of Bethlehem Woods, and fire extinguisher training was provided at Plymouth Place Safety Fair. Personnel also participated in the silent parade tribute to fallen firefighters and victims of fire. The fire department open house was held on October 12th. The weather was nice and there was a great turnout by our residents. As usual, the event focused on providing attendees with life safety educational messages while conducting demonstrations on fire department operations. Lindsay Kaplan, a new communications manager for the National Fire Protection Association, visited the fire department to discuss our fire sprinkler ordinance and public education efforts. EMS coverage was again provided by Nazareth football games. In addition, the ladder truck was used to help display the American flag at the RBHS homecoming football game. Chief Magus and Division Chief Renusky both attended the Illinois Fire Chiefs Conference. Personnel participated in the Chamber's Haunted Trolley event, handing out goodies at Station 2. and a couple events of notoriety on the end of the month on October 30th and 31st. Over the course of 2 days during the early wet snow event, our fire department responded to many incidents involving down power lines and trees falling on power lines. There was also various reports of electrical damage and a small fire inside one home. And also on the 31st of October, we responded to a fire on South Catherine in Grange with an engine company and the chief as backup. There was fire inside an exterior wall, and firefighters did a great job stopping it. And that concludes the report from the Fire Department and Public Safety this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Lautner. Public Works Committee, Trustee Sheehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. For October, winter had arrived much earlier than expected, dropping the first measurable snow in the area the last week of October. Staff and equipment were made ready to attack Mother Nature to maintain safe roadways. Staff salted 52.4 miles of roadway using a total of 8.24 tons of salt. A total of 9 overtime hours were spent on winter operations for the month. The Village Brush Collection Program concluded the season during the first full week of October. Due to a record-setting early snow event, a special brush pickup was added at the end of October. Multiple crews spent 143 hours making multiple passes throughout town, collecting brush piles along with assistance of our contractors. Nearly 215 cubic yards of brush were collected. The Village Leaf Program began for October with staff spending 97.5 daytime hours on the removal of nearly 263 cubic yards of leaves. Street sweeping continued, spending 88 day shift hours cleaning 170 miles of roadway. 70 yards of debris and leaves were collected, making multiple passes throughout town. Tree maintenance in October spent 85.5 hours inspecting, planting, trimming, and removing dead or hazardous trees. Due to the wet, heavy snow event, we experienced, as Trustee Lautner alluded to, many downed trees, branches which our staff handled tremendously. Hanging branches have been addressed and are being completed diligently. Staff attended multiple snow and ice seminars at the DuPage County Department of Transportation to gain information and updated strategy to fight the winter this upcoming season. Crews were out filling potholes throughout town and finished multiple asphalt patches from water and sewer excavations. 94 3/4 daytime hours were spent on these patches, usually a combined 26 tons of surface mix and cold patch. 129 day shift hours were spent on buildings and ground, public works, around Public Works facility, Village Hall, and along 31st Street. 59 day shift hours were spent in October in the maintenance of Public Works equipment and vehicles. Work orders were completed with crews removing roadkill, making sign repairs, and attending to resident concerns. Over 32.8 day shift hours and 68.5 overtime hours during the month of October were spent on maintenance and repair of sewer and water mains. 30,690,000 gallons of water were purchased from the Brookfield North Riverside Water Commission. 1,273 water meters were read in Section 1. 55 monthly accounts and 21 final meter readings were taken. Various inspections, appointments, and service calls were performed. 5 water and sewer inspections, 10 meter appointments, and 20 service calls were performed. 15 water bacterial samples were taken, along with Stage 2 quarterly samples. 168 utility locations were identified prior to excavations. 2 valve boxes were repaired, 3 water mains were repaired, 2 shutoffs were performed. And, Mr. President, I have one action item. This is in regard to the 2019-2020 salt purchase contract, open purchase order. The Public Works Department is seeking approval from the board to have an open purchase order with Cargill Incorporated Salt Division for the purpose of bulk purchase of bulk road salt in an amount not to exceed $75,000. The State of Illinois Bureau of Strategic Sourcing solicited bids for bulk rock salt back in March 2019. The village was informed on October 9th that Cargill Incorporated Salt Division was awarded the 2019-2020 block rock salt contract at $83.55 per ton. For the past several years, the cost of salt was much more favorable than it is this year. The reason for the dramatic increase is a supply shortage due to increased snow events last year and one of the mines being out of service. The village is required to take a minimum purchase of 800 tons of salt at the contract price of $83.55 per ton, which would be a total cost of $66,840. The village can purchase a maximum 120%, 1,200 tons, which would be a total of $100,260. Public Works will gauge the use this upcoming winter season and only purchase what is needed to keep a healthy supply. Assuming this upcoming winter season is light, fingers crossed, in preparation, the Public Works anticipates pricing could drop next year. In the fiscal year, the village has budgeted in the Motor Fuel Tax Fund Services 04-40-5-532, $75,000. Staff recommends the board approve the open purchase order not to exceed $75,000 with Cargill Incorporated Salt Division for the purpose of salt at tonight's meeting. Therefore, Mr. President, I make a motion to approve an open purchase order with Cargill Incorporated Salt Division not to exceed a total amount of $75,000.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Sheehan?
I wish that the mention of a light winter season was highlighted in bold letters. That's what everybody's hoping for, but I do know if it hits that our crews and staff will be ready. I do have one question for Mr. Jandik. Approximately how much salt do we have on supply today, right now?
Roughly, we have about 600 tons ready to go in our salt dome.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I remember when I first came on the board, I think we were holding our price pretty firm from years past. I want to say it was like $40. So it's a shame, but we have to have rock salt on hand to keep our roads and our residents safe, so.
Great. Mr. Jandik, for heavy snowfall, how much, 600 tons is, how much do we use in a regular snowfall?
More than enough. Actually, the last storm we had on the 11th of November, we used about a total of 26 tons of salt, and that's from early morning throughout the entire day. Generally, again, that was not a very heavy snowfall. We were talking about 2-3 inches roughly. Generally, higher snowfalls of 6 inches and plus, even 4 inches and plus, we're going to use much less salt. And we were throwing salt roughly at 200 pounds per lane mile, which is much lower than we have in the past, which is perfect just to keep roads open.
Great. Thank you for all that you guys do. Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. We have any other discussion? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Kucera?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Mr. President, that concludes it, Public Works.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Sheehan. Moving on to Finance Committee, Trustee Messick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Financial update as of the end of October of this year. Fiscal year to date, general fund revenue is at 51% of the annual budget and about $60,000 lower than the prior year. Property tax receipts are down slightly compared to the prior year due to an increase in refunds. Other local taxes are lower by $32,000 or 4.1% due primarily to the timing of cable franchise fee payments. License revenue is down about $9,000 or 3.2% from last year. Permit revenue is down 47.8% or $128,000 compared to the prior year. Intergovernmental revenue is up nearly $163,000 or 18.2% compared to last year due to increased state shared revenue receipts. Charges for services are down about $20,000 or 7.9% due primarily to lower ambulance fee receipts compared to last year. Fine revenue is about $30,000 lower than last year, and the total general fund expenditures are within expectations at 46% of the annual budget and about $179,000 greater than last year. The increase includes the budgeted transfer of $250,000 in cash reserves to the Capital Projects Fund compared to $100,000 last year. Absent the increased transfer amount, general fund expenditures are less than 1% greater than last year. And that concludes the finance report. There is one action item with 4 separate motions. So, Okay, this is the purpose is to approve the proposed 2019 property tax levy and bond abatement ordinances. The village's annual property tax levy is restricted by the Illinois Property Tax Extension Limitation Law, or PTEL. The PTEL limits the amount the village may increase the aggregate levy each year to the lesser of 5% or the change in the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. The term aggregate levy is specifically defined by the Truth in Taxation Law to include the corporate and special purpose levies and excludes levies for debt service. For the 2019 levy, the PTEL CPI change is 1.9% and is therefore the limiting factor. The PTEL authorizes the village to collect additional taxes on new property value. Over the past 10 years, the value of new property has ranged between 0.04% and 0.54% of the village's total equalized assessed value, or EAV. We will not know the actual amount of the new value until well after the village's tax levy ordinance is due to the county. As such, an estimated increase of 2% of EAV has been incorporated into the levy estimate calculation to ensure all potential new value is included. The county will reduce the village's actual extension to the amount allowed under PTEL. The village board approved an estimated aggregate levy for 2019 of $3,792,700 at the October board meeting, which is 3.9% above the 2018 extension of $3,650,383. The estimated aggregate levy is less than 5% increase, therefore a public hearing is not required by the Truth in Taxation Law. It is important to note that for most residents, the actual increase in the village's aggregate property tax levy should be approximately the CPI amount of 1.9%. The 3.9% total increase includes the 2% new value estimate. Unless directed otherwise, the county clerk will add 3% to the village's aggregate levy to offset uncollectible taxes. As has been done in the past, the 2019 levy reduces the loss factor to 2% based on the village's collection history, except for debt service. This additional amount does not increase the total levy allowed under the PTEL. 4 proposed ordinances are attached to this memo. The first ordinance authorizes the county clerk to extend the village's proposed 2019 property tax levy. The second ordinance provides the county clerk direction on how to reduce the village's 2019 property tax levy in the likely event that the aggregate levy exceeds the PTEL allowed amount. As in the past, the village is directing the Cook County clerk to apply any reduction due to PTEL to the corporate or general levy. This ensures the special purpose amounts, such as for police pension, will be fully levied. The third ordinance is to abate the property tax levy for 2014 sewer refunding bonds. The original bonds were issued in 2006 for sewer infrastructure projects. While the village pays for the bonds with sewer fee revenue, the bonds are also backed by annual property tax levy included in the bond ordinance. The village must direct the county clerk to abate this property tax each year, or the bond will be extended, the bond levy. The village's 2019 property tax levy will also include a debt service amount for the 2016 road and fire bonds approved by the referendum. The debt service levy annual amounts were included in the bond ordinance already filed with the county. For the 2019 levy, the debt service amount is $1,245,500. The actual bond levy extension will include a 5% loss factor to ensure that adequate funds are available to pay debt service. The fourth proposed ordinance abates a portion of the 2016 bond levy. Due to the 5% loss factor and interest income, the village currently has available fund balance of approximately $158,000 in the debt service above the amount needed for paying principal and interest. As a result, the board may abate a portion of the 2016 bond levy. Staff is recommending an abatement amount of $100,000, which along with the 2019 loss factor will maintain a sufficient fund balance for potential property tax refunds. Staff recommends that we approve the attached ordinances at this meeting. So I'm going to take them one at a time. First motion is to approve an ordinance providing for the annual tax levy for the Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois for the fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2019 and ending April 30th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion, a second discussion. Any more, Trustee Messick?
No, Mr. President, this is standard what we've done. It's limited to the PTEL, and So I fully support it.
Any other comments from the board? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Kucera?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
All right, second motion is to approve an ordinance providing for the specific reductions of the 2019 property tax levy pursuant to the property tax extension limitation law.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Messick?
Same thing here. This is pretty standard, and it allows for the overages to be reduced by the county clerk, so I support it.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Kucera?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Okay, third motion is to approve an ordinance abating the tax hereto levied for the fiscal, or for the year 2019 to pay the principal and interest of $3,495,000 general obligation refunding bonds alternate revenue source series 2014 of the Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Trustee Messick?
To elucidate on it and make it clear for the residents, I'd like to see Finance Director Noller can explain what the abatement is, so to make it more clear. So
The first abatement there, the first abatement is for the 2014 sewer bonds, which actually refunded bonds that were issued in 2006 for sewer projects. The reason we abate those every year is because those bonds are actually paid with sewer fees, and there's a tax levy already in place when the bonds were issued, and if you don't abate that would be levied, and so we abate it every year, so we use the money from the sewer fund.
Okay. Thank you, Larry.
said so much better than I would have.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Kucera?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
All right, motion number 4 is to approve an ordinance abating a portion of the taxes heretofore levied for the year 2019 to pay debt service on general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2016 of the Village of LaGrange Park, Cook County, Illinois.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion, Trustee Messick?
Again, this is, I understand it, but I would like Director Noller to explain it so all the residents and everybody's clear.
Thank you. So this is a new one for the village this year, and the reason we are doing this is we issued bonds in 2016 for the road and fire projects. Those bonds have been paid for the last few years. As we talked about earlier, the county does put a 5% loss to compensate for any taxes not collected. And we also earn interest on some of that money. And so for the past few years, we've collected a small surplus. You don't want to collect too much because of arbitrage rules. We want to keep that as the surplus in the as minimum as possible. And we're going to abate, as was said, there's $158,000 available. We're going to abate about $100,000, which will still leave enough in case we do have any refunds or such that needs to be done. And we'll probably look at doing this on a routine basis going forward over the next 8 years or so to make sure that we don't collect too much.
Thank you, Director Noller.
I'd also like to add, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
that this will actually reduce the tax levy somewhat, and so it more than offsets what we are projecting to collect for the 1.9% increase on the general levy. So for, say, a $350,000 house, we were projecting about a $16 increase in the village's share of the tax. This will probably reverse that and make it more like a $5 to $10 decrease in the tax for the next year.
Okay. Thank you, Director Noller.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Kucera?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Trustee Messick.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Moving on to other reports, our village clerk,
I have no report, Mr. President.
our village treasurer.
No report, Mr. President.
Our village engineer,
No report, Mr. President.
our village attorney,
No report, Mr. President.
And Commercial Revitalization Committee, Trustee Casera.
And thank you, Mr. President. This evening, I have 2 items to report on. The first is a joint review board meeting. The annual joint review board meeting for both the Village Market and 31st Street Barnesdale TIFs will be held on December 12th. If you'd like more information on the meetings or to review copies of the annual Illinois Controller reports, please contact Assistant Manager Emily Rodman. The second is regarding the 7-Eleven strip mall. Improvements at the 7-Eleven strip mall continue. Construction is nearing completion at Rosati's, and they anticipate opening in December. And with Eno's receiving their permits now, hopefully we'll see some additional progress quickly. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Casera. Motion to approve committee and collectors' reports as presented.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I have a couple things. First is the Business Outreach Program update. The village is continuing to reach out to each and every business in the community through the Business Outreach Program. Board members have met with several businesses and have received positive feedback. As a reminder, this Saturday, November 30th, is Small Business Saturday. Small Business Saturday is an annual tradition dedicated to supporting small businesses and celebrating communities across the country. Shopping locally has a direct benefit in your community as portion of the money from your purchases is reinvested directly back into your community. All are encouraged to make an investment and celebrate this tradition by visiting the wonderful businesses in our community. I want to thank Emily Rodman again for the work that she's done for this business outreach program. I encourage our trustees to get out there and get your reports in. What better time than during the holiday season to spread some cheer to our local businesses and get those reports so we can print those pictures and get everything going. So again, Emily, thank you so much for all that you've done. Proud to announce Nazareth, our high school in LaGrange Park, which we're getting a lot of notoriety from, is playing for the state championship once again. I think they're going to fill the road on Ogden Avenue with signs if they don't stop winning championships. They play Saturday at 1 o'clock in DeKalb at Northern Illinois Stadium. I know it's on local TV. I don't know what channel, but we have a couple residents that are on that team, and Nazareth has always been representing LaGrange Park extremely well. So good luck to the Roadrunners. And a happy Thanksgiving to all our residents and community and staff from the board and myself. What better way to say thank you than to hear what we've heard tonight, a couple presentations on what our community, what our staff, what our village is doing to receive the awards that it does, #1 in the country. Gene made the comment that we're the first community to approve. We've had great success in our financial reporting, our police and fire, our administration committee, our attorney, our engineer, our public works with new technology. I think our residents need to know what great work, and it's all about perfection and excellence. And if there is perfection and excellence, our village staff shows it, and the people that we employ to do the work that our village needs done. I know our board is extremely grateful for everything, and when you rise above and beyond and you hear what we've done in compared to other communities around us, and we do it quietly, and I'm so grateful. Hank Beckman is here tonight. Hank is from the Doings. Thank you, Hank, for being here tonight in reporting the happenings in LaGrange Park. Hopefully we give you a lot of things to put in your paper and boast about us. But it is a privilege to be up here and to express these views, especially at this time of year, because the accolades, you know, our residents don't hear about all the awards that we receive from all the great things that our staff and our departments do. So again, kudos to everyone involved in the village and to you, the board, who supports everything that they do. Okay, moving on to public participation of non-agenda related items. Would anyone care to address the board? Please step up to the mic. Thank you for being so patient. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was it three minutes, right? 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, if you guys, we have 3 minutes, so if you'd like to start.
Okay, we just wanted to follow up on this issue of the danger on 26th Street. And I'm sure many of you have gone down this whole street to check out what we're talking about. And if you have, you've noticed that all the way from Beach Avenue to 26th Street is sidewalk. You can walk through, except for this one half block that you either have to walk in uneven grass and weeds, or walk in the street. The first page that you see with people walking on it, as you can see on the corner of Ostrander, you have to just go around the block. You can't go to Grove 1, you can't go across to Ostrander, to the other side, because there is no sidewalk there. Then when you get across the street, you either walk in the grass or the weeds, in the water, whatever's there, or you walk in the street. And as you can see on the bottom, there's people walking. Top one is me, I'm walking my grandson in the stroller, and then there's people walking with a baby in the next picture. The second page is what this house looks like that we're talking about. And, well, actually, in the bottom of the page with the people walking, you can tell if there was a sidewalk there. You can walk behind the car. There's room. You don't have to walk in the street. And the second page shows also, these cars aren't pulled all the way up. You could actually just walk around them without having to walk in the street. And that shows the condition of the lot. Then we also, because it was stated that this was a unique situation, we walked and I don't have the last, but you do. And we measured. And the resident in question had 24 feet from the garage to the curb. The rest of these, as you can see, I wrote on these, have 19 feet, so they're even closer to the street. This one's 18, this one's 21, and on this sheet, it gives all of the measurements from the garage door to the curb. So they are not at all a unique situation. All the rest of these have them, and actually have shorter driveways than the resident in question. What else?
Are walking with their kids with strollers, with little tricycles or bicycles. Our neighbor's in a wheelchair. They have to push her wheelchair down the street. My granddaughter gets pushed in a stroller down the street. So it's not only for just the pedestrians, it's for other means of transportation. So you can't push a wheelchair down that piece of property. You can't have a little kid ride their tricycle down that. It really is more than just for the joggers, which seemed to be the impression that was last time. And so we just want to implore you to really take a look at this. This property is not unique. There are 3 other houses that have even shorter distances with sidewalks in there already. And so this house really, I think, needs to have a look at to provide for safety for the passage of either pedestrians or families or kids and bikes and trikes and wheelchairs and whatnot, because you cannot pass on that grass and you can't pass on the street. The street is 20 feet wide, as you pointed out. Most streets are supposed to be 28 feet wide. This is a thoroughfare. This is not one of the smaller streets. There's a high volume of traffic. Traffic moves fast, and there's no room for a pedestrian to be in the street, but you can't be on it. There's no path for the pedestrian to be. So we'd like you to just take a look at this and consider that in your discussions.
Sure. I want to thank you both for the amount of information. It's very helpful. and thank you for doing the legwork on all of this. We know that staff has met with Cook County Forest Reserve this past week to continue to gather information. This will be very helpful for the board, and whenever we schedule to readdress this issue and hopefully come up with a safe, sound decision.
You know, and one thing I'd like to point out is west of Kemen, the Cook County did put in a sidewalk on the north side of the street. It's not passable, it's not maintained. And I know you were talking about having the Cook County take care of something that really belongs on village property. They're not maintaining that sidewalk. It's not usable. So the sidewalk is there, but nobody can use it. So,
And also to go across the street, to walk on the sidewalk for half a block, it
Right.
doesn't, that really, to cross the street twice to do that doesn't.
thank you for your time and
Well,
consideration on this issue.
thank you.
I really do believe it's a safety issue.
It is,
I'm concerned
yes.
about myself, my family, and everybody else in the community that has to pass through that area. And if we don't belong in the street, but we can't walk on property because it's not usable, where are we supposed to go?
Okay. Again, thank you for the information. What I would check with Julia maybe and see when it's going to be brought up again before the board so that you know what meeting to come to. Okay? Thank you both. Have a good Thanksgiving. Okay, any new business? Seeing none, motion to executive session, trustee Messick?
All right, I make a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing, 1, collective bargaining in accordance with 5 ILCS 120/2C, and 2, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body in accordance with 5 ILCS 120/2C1. Not to return to open session until our next scheduled meeting at December 10th, 2019 at 7:30.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Megan, call the roll.
Trustee Messick?
Yes.
Trustee Sheehan?
Yes.
Trustee Kucera?
Yes.
Trustee Lautner?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously, Mr. President.
We'll move into executive session.